Hello everyone and welcome to the Celestial Invitational, last day of the group stages today, and we have a super cool lineup of players. I'm D2, with me is Kaldi, and like I said, Dog, Tice, Brarose, and Kimmy, super cool group of players, two really well-known players in Dog and Tice, and two lesser-known Chinese qualifiers in Kimmy and Brarose, but I'm looking forward to some really good games today, Kaldi.
Yeah, absolutely. We talk about the players that have broken out in the last 6 months. Those would probably be Dog and Ties. Dog coming from being a relatively unknown pro in complexity to really breaking out, got second at DreamHack Summer, uh, did really, really well in the online portion, got picked up by Team Liquid. And then we have Ties, who was always a known pro, but hadn't really had his breakout performance. And he really did by winning the European Championship. And a lot of people were talking about his semifinal against Oscar BlizzCon being the real final, but he did get a third to fourth place, lost 2-3. So great few months by Tyson. He's just been on fire.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, people don't realize this, but Tice actually started out at the very bottom. He basically was just winning Zotac Cups, winning online tournaments, and he basically just won so many that he got recognized for that and got invited to that what was it, the I Hearth You series, where he kept winning over and over and over again in that King of the Hill, and then from there he just steadily kept climbing and climbing, and like you said, kind of culminated in that European Championship. Has also won DreamHack as well, so a very decorated career thus far. And we do want to remind everyone that Caldi and I, are bringing you the English cast. Obviously, those aren't us on the screen there. Though we do have Magic Wind, a very prominent Chinese player casting. That's kind of interesting right there, as we do see Dog on the screen, part of Liquid. I always like when it says the country, and those characters actually mean beautiful country. Speaking of the USA, so I like to think so too. And if you guys don't know the Chinese characters, in any case, we are going to be looking at his lineup. It's going to be a Freeze Mage with Reno Jackson, going to be an Oil Rogue with a Big Game Hunter and Healbot. No two Healbots this time. Dog sometimes likes to put two in there. And finally, we have our
Huntlock, I guess. Yeah,
yeah,
just a
Demon
standard
Handlock.
Huntlock.
Just a standard Demon Handlock. This deck has been around for quite a while. Not even any TGT cards in that deck right there. So TTT out, maybe? No, I'm just kidding. He is going to go against Brarose today. And a lot of you probably don't know who Brarose is. He actually did qualify twice for the qualifier into this event, so pretty impressive by him. He basically, you have to go through two qualifiers in order to get here, unless you're invited to the original one, as we see Brarose on the screen right there. He is from Team Celestial, and like I said, he qualified twice and then managed to win the second time he qualified. Ooh, nice portrait there from Brarose. But yeah, he's a pretty
Shooting
good.
it up,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. He did get through a bracket that included Silent Storm, so that kind of shows the kind of quality of players that he had to get through to get to this point. And he's going to be playing Druid, which seems like a standard-ish combo Druid with Sylvanas. Only one Naxxramas, it looks like, so that's kind of
That's
interesting.
yeah.
And
Generally standard. One done Nasus. We talk about the looks to be what is this? Not even Raptor, not even you. I guess this would be the Raptor Rogue, but it's a weird version of it. And then we
yes,
have the last one, yeah, just a full-on zoo with one Hellfire.
right,
Now, what do you
right.
think about Hellfire in a suit generally?
Yeah, the Hellfire, I guess, is something to combat Patron Warrior. We saw that when Patron was at its absolute peak. But yeah, like you said, no Dr. Boom, but does have a Sea Giant in there, has the Mal'Ganis. And yeah, like you said, with the Raptor Rogue, even has the Dark Iron Skulker there. I believe that's what it's called. With the 5-drop card right there, just to provide some sort of tempo because you're not going to be running too many spells. And yeah, really interesting lineup. Typically, when I've seen Chinese players run the Unearthed Raptor Rogue, they typically like to play it a little bit more aggressively, putting those Cold Bloods in there, which we saw in that deck. One thing before we go on, I want to ask you a very specific question.
Hmm.
We Firebat, when we interviewed him, said that one of the most common pairings is to put Druid and Paladin together. And in fact, today, Dog, Tice, and Kimmy put, paired those two classes together. In one of their lineups, they have Druid and Paladin together, except for Brarose. Brarose is the only person that puts that together. So, what are the merits of that, and why do you think these three players did and one player didn't?
So uh, the reason I think that is you have Paladin, which is extremely strong against the mid-range decks, the Zoo style decks, even the anti-control decks. But what Paladin really falls to is Freeze Mage and Rogue.
Mm.
And now, what do we have that's really strong against Freeze Mage and Rogue? And that would be the Druid. So the two decks really complement each other really well because they counter each other's counters, kind of. Because if we look at what counters Druid, that would generally be Sue and I guess even mid-range Paladin. So you have a strong deck against that, and then you have the strong decks against the Freeze and Rogue there. But to talk a bit about the Sue with Hellfire, now I generally feel like Hellfire and Sue is kind of a card that is only good when you're behind.
Hmm.
So I feel like Sue is actually not a deck that can uh, be behind and come back easily. That's generally not something that I feel like happens. Whereas Rogue and Freeze Mage can definitely pull, comebacks. Even Patron can pull comebacks. I just feel like with Sue, you just have to, be aggressive and play for the board. And I guess adding a Hellfire in doesn't fit my playstyle at least. But I guess if you're playing a mirror match, it would be very strong. And I could see that being strong against Paladin as well. But we're going to game number one here, Freeze Mage versus Rogue. Now, if this would be a standard Oil Rogue, I would actually give the Oil Rogue the advantage. But against this Unearthed Raptor Rogue, I am going to be quite confident in the Freeze Mage by Dog.
Right, right. And I mean, we've seen a lot of death rattles in, for instance, Zoo, but Freeze Mage still doesn't have too much trouble dealing with all those death rattles. Obviously, it's pretty tough to deal with something like, an Unearthed Raptor that copied a Nerubian Egg, for instance. But I feel like a dog is pretty experienced with these Freeze Mage deck and will find a way to kind of deal with it. It will be kind of on him to be able to recognize that this is that type of rogue. Though, I mean, the deck isn't. I mean, the deck is finding some popularity on the ladder, so I imagine he will be able to sniff that out pretty quickly.
I think so, yeah. So the decks play a lot, very, very different. The the combo rogue, I guess, with the oils, essentially can play like a hunter if you wanted to. You can be eviscerating phase,
Mm.
having a huge weapon. People even play Assassin's Blade, Loatheb, but those things are cut to make room for the eggs and the raptor. So this rogue here is actually kind of played like almost a Zoo style deck.
Right, right,
And what
right.
does Freeze Mage excel against? That's Zoo style decks.
Yeah, that would seem to be something in Dog's favor. I just want to remind everyone that the players were given, an invite to come to China to participate at the site for the land, but for many players it was just too long a journey and too much hassle to go through the process of getting a visa. So we do see Dog playing from his home there. Looks like it's basically the middle of the night, so might be a difficult match for him. Obviously, Brarose in the studio right there. And one thing that Brarose could use to his advantage is that cold blood, maybe to get some, burst out of nowhere. And it's kind of burst that Dog maybe will want. He might not be expecting that kind of thing.
I think this is kind of a fun situation because you build a deck almost exclusively around the Raptor, and now you're just gonna play it like a spider tank.
Right, right,
But
right.
that's what you have to do, That's absolutely what you have to do. And I think it would be incorrect to go over anything except the Raptor now. But it feels a bit painful when you're adding 5 cards to supplement
Mm.
this 1 card, and then you're just playing as a 3/4. And
It would,
generally, that's often worth it. Yeah, like I've been
yeah.
losing games when you have when you have egg coin raptor on turn 4. That's just devastating.
Right. I mean, that's kind of the power of the card too, as well, right? If it was like a 3/2, and then you got to just copy a random death rattle, it would be kind of strong, but not nearly as strong as it is now. Just because, worst case scenario, you're getting a solid 3 drop, and best case scenario, you're getting an excellent minion. So that's kind of why this deck is even spawned in the first place, right? I mean, Rogue never even had. I mean, Tempo Rogue is something that hasn't existed for 2 years, since basically 2013. There were some variants of it in early 2014, but just this card alone being able to somewhat revive this deck is it's kind of just showing like how strong it is, basically, because without it, you'd never see this kind of rogue.
It's exciting, yeah, and I think especially now with the Tomb Pillager coming out, the 5/4 that has a death rattle, put a coin in your hand. I think that would work really well with this sort of combo. But people are now just figuring out, okay, a lot of these new cards require a whole new
Oh,
deck to be played around them. And
is
apparently,
yeah, Dog must have disconnected or something because obviously he would at least ping there.
we're
Um,
getting word at least that there's a Raptor bug, something that
hmm.
has been happening. But we've been talking about, yeah. So the Raptor is good on its own, no question. But is it good enough to build a whole deck around it? Take out 5, 6 cards that have been in Rogue and put 5, 6 cards that have not been in Rogue back in. Uh, and it seems to have potential. We know we were talking about in TGT if Flamemaker was worth building a whole deck around it, and it turned out to be worth it to play a whole deck around Flamemaker. I guess another one that's been kind of played like that was the Grim Patron. No question that was worth it, and now Reno seems to be worth it as well, at least in the Warlock.
Yeah, so it looks like that's definitely a good question to ponder. But looks like Brarose was kind of just playing a practice match there, just playing it out, testing his shredder placement for the next match potentially. But he knew that this was going to be a regame. I mean, there was no chance that Dog was had like nothing to do there that entire time. So we are going to get a rematch. I'm assuming we don't have any word yet, but it looks like that's going to be the case. And probably Dog was not aware of the DC. Sometimes you just there's no indication at all other than like, wait a second, this turn is taking a long time and the rope hasn't appeared yet. What's going on? And yeah, that's probably why we didn't see Dog flinch at all. And I imagine we're going to be going into another game. Gotta feel bad for Brarose, however. I mean, he didn't get to copy any death rattles with his Unearthed Raptor, but he was putting up a pretty significant board there. He had the coin SA7 agent to take out the loot hoarder, then played the Raptor on curve, albeit without the death rattle. But then that into Shredder, into second Shredder, into Cold Blood. It wasn't that bad of a situation, and it might have been a difficult time for Dog.
Yeah, I think the hand was kind of mediocre. There was no egg. The egg is the big thing against Freeze Mage here. But to talk a bit about it, I feel like Brarose actually gained more than Dog about this because you can mulligan for the egg specifically, and
Hmm.
you know what to keep because you don't have to keep stuff like Backstab, which you might have kept otherwise. If you thought it could be potentially Tempo Mates, I mean, it's Dog, so it's probably going to be Freeze Mates. He's known for Freeze Mates over Tempo Mates.
Right.
But yeah, yesterday the NA server was down for the majority of the day, and EU was having a lot of problems. I played myself 2 pro matches yesterday against Super JJ and Josiah, and we had 3 regames where on turn 2 or 3 there was just a disconnect, and we had to start over. Thankfully, in that case, though, the deck lists had been known for 2 weeks, so we knew exactly what we were playing against. But in this case, I mean, Dog had no idea, and Browners had no idea. So now there's no way that it will be 100% fair on both players because
Right.
one deck will be more mulligan specific in terms of what it will face, and
Mm.
so one player is going to get a slight advantage, and that's just a very unfortunate thing. I think the main part of it is that there is going to be a wing out tonight, so that may be a part of it.
Yeah, it could be some complications related to that. Who do you think has a bigger advantage here, having gotten that information? I tend to lean toward Brarose just because, Dog, even if whether you're playing against an Oil Rogue or you're playing against this kind of different zoo, kind of a build the board type of Unearthed Raptor Rogue, you kind of want to mulligan for similar cards, right? You want a bit of removal, mostly just card draw, actually. Mostly you're just looking for card draw and then some other pieces to be able to deal with your opponent's board. Whereas now Brarose knows that he doesn't have to deal with any sort of early minions. I mean, I doubt he thinks this is going to be the aggro freeze mage, though. I mean, on the other hand, I guess we've seen Dog play around with some stuff. We saw him play Tempo Mage in the qualifiers for BlizzCon in that last call tournament, I believe. So, I guess it could go both ways, but I'm leaning toward it helps Brarose a bit more.
Yeah, we talk about specific cards that you would mulligan differently. It will come down to for Dog. Do you keep Arcane Intellect? You would keep Luchtwater, Novice Engineer, Mad Scientist, Acolyte 100%. It just comes down to Doomsayer and Arcane Intellect. And now, if you had no idea if you're facing Oil Rogue, you'd want the Arcane Intellect, and if you were facing Raptor Rogue, you'd want the Doomsayer. So it's a minor thing, though. You wouldn't be in a bad situation if you had Doomsayer or Arcane Intellect, so it's a very minor thing. But for Brarose, though, keeping Lothep, he kept Lothep now. You would never keep Lothep if you didn't know this was Freeze Mage. If
Right,
this
right.
could be Tempo Mage, you'd be, years behind. So
Yeah,
it affects.
especially going first with the load, that would be a disaster.
I think it's even iffy now, knowing it's Freeze Mage. But yeah, so I actually really don't like keeping Talnos here.
Did he
I
keep
really
Thanos in his opening hand?
He did, yeah. I really dislike it. But
Huh.
at least
I
Brarose,
th-
he could keep the egg.
I suppose he was
He
looking for this opportunity, right? He was maybe Dog wouldn't want to ping and just play out the Loot Hoarder or Mad Scientist, and then from there Braros could get a Raptor into his hand to copy and get double card draw, which is reasonable, I suppose. So
I mean,
yeah,
yeah, let's say there's a 50% chance that dog will ping, and you don't have the Raptor. So maybe 1 in 3 or 1 in 4 that you'll top deck the Raptor. You have 3 chances to get it.
right.
No,
Yeah, it
four
seems
chances to get it. So it's yeah, maybe 1 in 6 that this will actually pull off. And
right. Seems pretty optimistic. I have to agree. I mean, you're keeping the Lothep as well, so it's like, how likely is it that you exactly get that Raptor? Something like an SI wouldn't pair too well with the Thanos either. So, I guess he figures that worst case scenario, he gets to draw a card and maybe draw into a 3-drop. So, it looks like it's working out kind of okay for him. He does have a pretty solid curve. 4-drop into 5-drop into 6-drop. And this is one of the bigger things actually about this situation is that Brarose isn't scared at all to play this Pile Destroyer just on curve. It is kind of strange to see 2 secrets out of a non-freeze mage, but yeah, it's still something to think about. Brarose had no hesitation here.
when he got one free out of the Paladin Sweater, out of the Mad Scientist, and then he plays another one on curve, so he can pretty much guarantee that Brarose, the dog doesn't have an Arcane Intellect or a Acolyte of Pain, most likely. But yeah, to talk a bit about the scenario here, the turn 6 Sylvanas, it's an interesting scenario. It's kind of like Mirror Entity against Freeze Mage, because, okay, you get some presence on the board, but you also give them a chance to just get a free board clear. And what I'm talking about there is, if you are a Freeze Mage, you can just play out a Doomsayer and then Fireball Sylvanas. And that makes the Sylvanas steal the Doomsayer and immediately wipe the board. And there's nothing you can do about that. So it is risky to play around it. But now this is a tough call. Do you go for Paladin Sweater? Do you go for Defender of Arcus? Or do you go for the Raptor?
Yeah, this is
I'm even leaning towards Defender of Arcus here.
This is pretty crazy. Typically, you don't see, Rogue having this many minion options, but obviously this is a completely different deck than what we're used to. But yeah, just a wealth of options here. Can go for that Raptor, can go for the Shredder, can go for the Defender of Argus to make his board, not vulnerable to Flame Strike. This one, like you said, is pretty risky. One thing to note is that with this Rogue, you're not typically worried about setting up your hero power. When you're playing the Oil Rogue, setting up your hero power for future turns can be pretty valuable, especially because you might need that 2 mana, and when you're comboing things like that Tinker Sharp Sword Oil. But in this case, getting that hero power set up isn't nearly as valuable, I would say.
Yeah, let's just say he wish he had Life Tap.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have that happen with Finlay Miracle Temp, but he's just using it as 2 damage to the face.
Right.
But yeah, I was playing against Cyan yesterday, and he was playing Rogue against my Freeze Mage, and he actually played Viscerate on curve to face. It's an interesting scenario.
Yeah,
I think there's some merit to it.
Yeah, we saw Brarose kind of hovering over it too. He's just like, well, I might not have a better chance than this, and unlikely I'm going to use it on a minion. So, yeah, it's pretty interesting. Although he could use it on a Doomsayer potentially, so it could go either way. But yeah, looking not too bad for Brarose. Obviously, Dog gets a discount here on all this stuff. Which can be pretty good with the Antonitis Frost Nova, but I know you might not even commit to that. And Dog's hand isn't that big, whereas Brarose has so many options.
Yeah, he is almost able to just steal this Emperor. Wouldn't that be something? I wonder if he's going to ignore it. But I think if you are going for Lothep, you kind of want to be going with the cold blood as well, or cold blood on the egg. But I want to go back to turn two again, and going for a Thalnos uh, as a Raptor Rogue is kind of like live tapping on turn two as a Zoo.
Right,
The scenario is very similar, you know.
right, right.
You get one draw, but yeah. Now with Lothar down, what can he really do? Dog really do here?
Yeah, he can
Is everything
Frost
discount?
Nova.
Yeah.
He can Frost Nova to prevent this board from doing anything. I think Brarose was thinking the entire time that he wanted to play Lotheb on turn 7 to prevent his opponent, as we see the Raptor come out and copy the Death Rattle of that Shredder. But I think Brarose wanted to, or he was planning on doing this Lotheb turn on turn 7 all along, just to prevent any sort of 3-mana spell like Secret or like the Frost Nova coming out. And that's typically when you want to do it, right? You don't want to give them the 8 mana to be able to play those spells, but unfortunately it didn't work out for him because Dog had the discount the turn before. And in the end, Brarose just kind of stuck to his guns, went with it, because the rest of his options weren't that great. It looks like Brarose really not wanting to play that Sylvanas and commit to that.
I don't blame him. Yeah, Doomsayer Fireball just messes everything up. But what can he do though? Like, what options are there?
I assume he could just go really, really aggressive right now. Maybe just go for Defender of Argus and double Cold Blood Hero Power and just try to get as much damage as possible. Like you said, it's just not the greatest matchup. If we see Dog has the Flame Strike, which would just completely reset the board and put Brarose in a really horrible spot. So, I imagine you just kind of go all in and hope that he doesn't have the resources to deal with your boards and just hope you can kind of steal a win that way.
I mean, yeah, the scenario is okay. You can't play around Doomsayer Frost Nova. This is something that Sudius really can't do unless you have an egg. You can't really be playing on Flame Strike, so
Right.
you just kind of have to be praying that he doesn't have the Flame Strike. But we know that Dog does have the Flame Strike, and this is feeling exactly like you'd see exactly like what you'd see out of a Zoo type of deck. But what does he get now? Is there going to be a Millhouse? The Loot Hoarder is okay-ish.
Yeah, Loot Hoarder is kind of okay because you get to refill your hand, obviously. What does Dog go for here? The Ping or the Loot Hoarder? I imagine he might go for the Loot Hoarder just to increase his options, but looks like he disagrees and is looking toward that Ping. No, he's going to reconsider. What would you do here?
Oof, it's a tough call. I actually like the Ping, and for the reason is that you have a very solid play next turn with Cone of Cold, Antinarius Cone of Cold here, Coin, Frostbolt. But now it looks like he just has to go all in, and I don't blame him here.
At this point, do you just play the Sylvanas because you've already gotten your board wiped, so it doesn't really you're not really too worried about that anymore. You just kind of want to put as much pressure on as possible, and at this point, if you get your board wiped, and you're pretty much done anyway, regardless of how it happens. So yeah, it looks like he is gonna finally commit to that Sylvanas, realizes that he has nothing to lose anymore, and just gonna get that 5 health creature on the board, which could cause some problems.
Absolutely. But in this case, it felt like what he needed to really push was
Quintuple Rocket Shark. I'm sorry, I had to say that. That's never happened before. Anyway, go ahead.
But yeah, I felt like Lotheb, a Lotheb Cold Blood combo was needed to really
Right.
push, let's say, push 10, 15 plus damage, and then go for that again. But a lot of sharks here, yeah.
This is so distracting, but it's so awesome at the same time. I'm sorry. Yeah, Dog can go for the Antinitis Cone of Cold Coin Frostbolt, which is pretty risky, obviously, with that Sylvanas, but will provide him a lot of fireballs. What were you saying? I'm sorry.
I was just talking about the win condition being the Lotheb Cold Blood combo, and that seems to just have passed a bit now. I
Right.
guess the other win condition is that the Freeze Mace doesn't draw any cycle, and the Freeze Mace just runs out of steam. But that just hasn't happened here, and Dog is looking really solid.
Yeah, absolutely. So it looks like Dog is just going to freeze everything here, freeze the board, freeze the face, and grab 3 fireballs while he's at it. And Brarose, he cannot kill his own Sylvanas, and he also cannot kill this Antinitis, so it looks like he's going to be in a world of hurt the next turn.
Seems to be. I think Dog is just going to be pushing face, but at this point, It's a tough call for Brarose. He just got a very unfortunate matchup here in game, but one.
Right, right. Yeah, just a really bad matchup. Like you said, it's almost worse than the Zoo matchup because you don't have that Mal'Ganis to be able to aid you and to provide that wall, and just a few other options that are in the Zoo that isn't in this Unearthed Raptor Rogue. But yeah, that's looking like it's probably going to be it over the next couple of turns. I'm pretty sure you don't run any heal in this sort of rogue. You run a couple taunts to get in the way, but that's about it. But yeah, Brarose looks like he's experiencing a bit of lag to add insult to injury. Gonna just hero power up, and Dog can just sit here and fireball the face, generate a couple more fireballs, and then yeah, he has the requisite damage over a couple turns to do so.
Yeah, it's one of the things you do cut actually. If you are playing that rogue, the standard oil rogue generally runs one heal bot and one low tip, um, but that just isn't an option here.
Oh,
He pings his own Athanatus.
yeah, that's an interesting play. Just to make sure that Brarose can't, maybe take some fireballs and make something crazy happen. Braro's going to need something like a Kazan Mystic here, which I don't believe is in his deck. And yeah, that's going to be it. No way to stop Dog from using his fireballs. No way to heal up out of range. No way to kill Dog right now. And
He
so there,
can proc the ice block though. That's
he
something that can happen, but he will die on the following turn
yeah,
though.
yeah, he can do that. But I mean, it's a moral victory, I suppose. But in the end, Dog's going to get the real victory.
No question here.
Alright, and after Dog throws these fireballs at the face of Brarose and pings him to death, it will be game one going to Dog with his freeze mage. Very well played by him, and he will be leading the series 1-0. Looks like we're having some issues with lag here, so Braro's just gonna concede and get this thing over with. So yeah, Dog gets through with the mage, clears that deck out. Congratulations to him. Good start on the day to him. Not so great for Brarose, obviously. A bit unfortunate for him running his rogue into that mage there. But he does have the druid, rogue, and warlock left, whereas Dog has rogue and warlock left. One thing to keep in mind is that it was pretty. I mean, it's not that fortunate for Dog, but it's kind of nice for him to be able to line up the mage versus that rogue. There were two matchups which were decent, the rogue and the warlock, but if Brarose had opened up with that druid, might have spelled some trouble for that mage.
It's a tough call in Conquest here. Do you start with your strongest deck, or do you start with your weakest deck? I think that it's very hard to claim that there's a benefit to either here. I mean, the Druid from Braros is going to be favored against, I believe, everything except maybe the mirror match.
Mhm.
It's decent. The thing is, though, that the Rogue, if you, I was talking about it yesterday, if you have an A-class Rogue, then that's actually going to be slightly favored against Druid. And we actually have, I think Dog is known as generally one of the best rogues in the Western scene.
Mhm.
Some other rogues would be Mr. Jagged, hyped, for example. And to really be that good of a rogue, you have to be playing, I think, a rogue since Naxxramas when you had the crazy Leroy. Because then you learned about the crazy OP Gajazan, but you also learned about sequencing the hero power. For example, turn two, your opponent plays a Luchthorror. Do you hero power or do you Ziev? Things like that. How the minor mulligan points in terms of saving the weapon versus not saving the weapon, and something the dog definitely knows about. And we were talking about Thais, making his way from the bottom, and that's something, yeah, in the beta that was happening. You learned the decks. Okay, there were some things that were maybe not exactly the same as they were now, but so many of the cards were the same, so you learned a lot.
Right. Definitely. And it's kind of funny because, Miracle Rogue was such a strong deck for such a long time and eventually got nerfed. And it's just one of those things where I think if you've been, a top tier player or maybe even a pro for a long time, it's just something that at some point you had to learn Miracle Rogue, right? I think it was Nyman or something like that. He was saying something on Twitter and he was showing all his golden classes and had basically he had he wasn't even ranked 60 with Rogue. He was like 10 or something. Barely played the class at all. I'm like, wait a second. How could you possibly play Hearthstone and be at a high level without ever playing Miracle Rogue? I was just absolutely baffled. I think the only other player that I can think of that hasn't played, tons of games of Rogue is Life Coach maybe. But yeah, it's kind of crazy. I mean, back in the summer of 2014, the two strongest decks were mid-range Druid and Rogue, which is pretty familiar if you think about it, right? Mid-range Druid and Patron were similarly really strong quite recently. But yeah, I mean, I remember I won my first open tournament using just Miracle Rogue and Druid. That's how strong those decks were at the time.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah. But to talk about Nyman and Life Coach, what do they have in common? They started after Naxxramas. Uh, so at that point, Miracle Rogue had already been nerfed, and the people that were playing Rogue were the people that had almost exclusively played Rogue. But yeah, fun times though, absolutely. And now we have the shade coming down. This is looking all right. I feel like if Barros had coined out the Shredder, he would be in a lot more trouble. But yeah, he has to kind of deal with this wild teacher.
Yeah, Brarose
I
had the
feel like,
opportunity as he
yeah.
picks up a second innervate. He had the opportunity to kind of ramp up and get a really fast start, but looks like he's instead opting to go for this play and maybe save innervate for something like use a spell and innervate a minion out kind of play later in the game, which can be pretty devastating for the rogue. In any case, this Lothup's going to shut down this Violet Teacher pretty hard, forcing the counter Lothub from Dog. And overall, I mean, this game is looking kind of even here. It'll be up to the players to make, the requisite plays to take advantage.
Yeah, I think Brarose played this going for the low type there on turn 4 was absolutely correct. And also going for this here on turn 3. I would have liked to see a turn 2 Shredder. That's just my personal opinion on the
Or
matter.
turn
But,
one Shredder.
or
But
turn 1 Shredder even, yeah. That's also a potential. But yeah, how is he going to trade here?
it looks like it's just going to be the Shade and the Lothar getting the value trades here. Obviously, Dog has a way to... I mean, he has the weapon already set up, so this Shade is almost certainly dead. As far as the rest of his turn, kind of up in the air. If he picks up something like a Prep, it could be pretty huge, because he could clear using that Blade Flurry after playing the Azure Drake. But looks like he's going to value not playing that and keeping his Lothab alive as long as possible. Pretty painful, though. You're not able to really utilize... you're not able to develop anything further onto the board, which is, always what you want to do as a rogue. Gonna be a
It's
sap,
two here, the
however.
sap, yeah, that's strong. That's really, really strong. You want to see sap in this feather, that's absolutely correct. I mean, the only better target to sap, really, realistically, in this deck, guess would be
Either Ancient
a
of
Dude of the
Lore or Ancient
Claw,
of
yeah.
War. Just off the top of the head, the two best cards are Ancient of Lore or Ancient of War, but it's not only just the quality of card that you sap, it's the timing. And with nothing else to do right now, Dog sapping that and being able to, gain sole possession of the board is pretty powerful right now.
Yeah, he is a bit all in on this working out, though. He has the Azure Drake backed up combo with a potential Flurry, and he can clear with that, and that looks really decent here. But yeah, I guess my problem with sapping the Ancient of Lore is that it is a battle cry minion, so you do get the value again from it. Whereas
Ooh.
I think through the club, but that's not bad. Yeah,
Yeah, that's a pretty good card for Brarose to pick up here. Unfortunately, he's down to 11 life, so upside and downside to what's been going on. And this is kind of why we were a bit critical of him in the beginning, just kind of playing it out a bit slow. He is maybe going to get back the board here. And he can even innervate out this through the claw. So this is finally starting to work out for him being a bit patient and conservative with his ramp. But, I mean, if he had started the game a bit faster, I doubt he'd be at 11 health right now.
yeah. It only goes back to the turn 1. I think the rest has been spot on by
Mm.
him. Dog has just had a really good hand, and now it will come down to what can Dog do. He gets basically everything. I think if he gets one sap on top of this, then he'll be looking really good. But the deadly poison does come down. He'll be looking at the flurry. Ancient of War is perfect for this scenario here. What does she start with though?
Um, well, what if he just goes really aggressive here and plays the Savage Roar. I mean, there's 7 damage on board, which means it would be 15 damage to face, plus potentially a swipe, which would bring his opponent down to 4, and really force Dog to have healing or he's dead. So that's a possibility. If he goes for the lore, obviously there's the question of whether you go for cards or healing. How scared are you of that, of what Dog just drew with that sprint? And if you play the Ancient of War, obviously you've seen one sap already, but if you play the Ancient of War and Dog has the second sap, you know, it could be game over. So everything here is laden with risk, I would say.
I think I like the Ancient of War play the best here, because it could be game over if you go for the Savage Roar as well. And you have the option potentially next turn as well here. The draw, I think you have lethal no matter what on the following turn, even if you draw Savage Roar or not, or Force Nature or not. And Brarose goes for the safe play. I really like this. Well played to Brarose.
Yep, going for that safe play like you mentioned. And what can Dog pick up here? He has the Tinkers, has the Flurry, but that costs him 6 mana to do so. And obviously it would be a 6 damage Flurry, so it would
Full clear, yeah.
Well, everything but the well, I guess okay, yeah, he could go Tinkers SI onto the Haunted Creeper, hit the Ancient of War, and Flurry would be full clear, but he'd be obviously vulnerable to combo, but that might be his only option here.
I think so, yeah. Another potential would be to go for the Fire of Knives, but I think in this case here, you definitely want the board presence with the 3/3. But, I mean, after the Flurry, what does Dog have here? He doesn't have an Eviscerate to finish this off. Is he really going to have to, yeah.
He has healing to keep himself in the game and prevent himself from dying to anything but combo. So I think that's a reasonable spot to be in. Once he realizes that he doesn't die this turn, I think he's perfectly fine with going with something like just Healbot and maybe Shredder or Healbot and Vile Teacher, and then just smacking the face with the SI7 agent, no matter what comes down. And then from there, just try to, you know, hope your opponent doesn't have combo, which you already know he doesn't have considering this turn.
That's true, yeah, but one more taunt. We see the heal coming down here. Probably we're looking at 11 health. He'll be able to do 4 damage next turn. So, yeah, I think this is just weirdly going to go away from the combo phase and back into the minion trading phase.
Right.
Strange to be having that conversation when both people are at 10 health, but that's where we are right now in this match.
Yeah. Does Brarose have lethal if Dog goes up to 18 here? I mean, he has 5 on the board, plus an extra 5 if you consider the Savage Roar, and then he'd have 4 from the swipe. So I guess not quite enough to be able to take it down. But yeah, this is exactly what we were saying. And now Brarose has another decision to make here. I imagine since he doesn't have lethal, he goes for the Sludge Belcher. But then what else do you do?
I don't mind silencing the Shredder here. I think it's strong. You get another minion on the board, you set up for the Savage Roar. I feel like swiping a 3/3 is not as strong by any means.
Yeah, and you get exactly. You get your Keeper of the Grove on the board. In that situation, do you take out one of the 3/3s instead of the 4/3 just so that you're not vulnerable to Fanonize, which you haven't seen any of yet?
I guess so. It's a potential. You could also kill both of the 3/3s and play a Belcher. It doesn't play as well with the Savage Roar, but it's strong as well though.
Yeah, this game is pretty crazy so far. Every turn, both players going back and forth. Looks like Dog is a sap away from lethal, it seems, if that's what they're referring to there. Or maybe just a key card, I suppose. They were putting it on the board. Looks like he was 1 damage off in that instance. Obviously, didn't have the Tinkers in hand at the moment, or at that time, excuse me. But yeah, pretty tough turn for Dog here. Everything is honestly viable. He could go for Violet Teacher Fan, but then you don't have much mana left. He could go for just starting off with the Fan. Maybe you go for the Sprint, and you can pick up, you know, a Sap as well as a Prep to finish off the game. Just so many things possible here. Looks like he's just gonna favor the Violet Teacher, and not respecting any sort of burst from Brarose right now.
I mean, he figures he's probably dead anyway if Brarose has the combo. But this is a perfect thing, yeah.
Yeah, this is pretty nice here because he gets to either clear the board or at least clear one, maybe clear the slime. Looks like he's gonna go for a Deadly Poison rather than the Pirate here. Does that leave? I guess it doesn't leave enough damage for Brarose to finish out the game, right? It's the same 5 from hand. Ooh, double Savage Aura. How much is that? So 4, 8,
That's not
9
enough, yeah.
plus 5 is
13,
14.
15. Oh, he's one off.
Is he one off? Oh, he is one off because he can use the Keeper, right? So he's 15 damage. That is very unfortunate for Brarose. Wow. Okay. We're not doing the math wrong here, right? It's 4 each from both of those, so 4, 8, and then plus 7. Yeah, 15.
15, yeah. Oof.
Uh,
And that should even spell the beginning to the end here. I mean,
oh, wow.
I think it's nice that Dog actually saved the pirate because there can be comboed with Tinkers for sure lethal.
Right.
Takes one more damage, but has the lethal next turn, and one damage is. I mean, he dies to the
And
combo anyway, and he survives everything that isn't combo.
yeah, so very smart play by Dog. They're holding back on the pirate. And Brarose, the funny thing here is killing off the Avowed Teacher makes it so that Dog has guaranteed lethal right here. And that's going to be it. What an insane game. Excellently played by Dog. A couple of questionable plays by Brarose, but overall well played by him as well. Unfortunately, he's going to fall in this game as well. And it's going to be a 2-0 series lead for Dog, clearing his Rogue and leaving only his Warlock left.
I think I want to even, give Rara some praise here. I think, except turn one, he played everything spot on.
Right, right. Yeah, he did play a pretty solid game there, recognizing when he could put some pressure on his opponent, recognizing when he had to clear his opponent's board, and stuck it in there stuck in that game right until the end, before he was eventually taken out by Dog there. But now he finds himself really on the back foot. Going to go right into this next game. It's going to be Brarose's Druid versus Dog's pretty standard, pretty old school Demon Handlock.
Absolutely. This is a counter deck to Patron generally. And what I'm interested in seeing is does Dog keep the Dark Bomb? Because obviously there is going to be the Darnassus and the Paldus, even a double Dark Bomb here. But yeah, to talk a bit about the Druid and something that I was actually playing in the early beta with Thais and those guys, and what we learned there was the strength of the Innovate versus Wild Growth, and the Wild Growth is definitely stronger against Control versus the Innovate is way, way stronger against. This is risky. Yeah, this is risky. I
Yeah.
guess he figures he's playing against Sue. This would be way, way strong against Sue, but weak against Handlock. He's gonna get punished here. This is really, really bad.
Well, he does have the Big Game Hunter for a huge swing turn later in the game. Unfortunately for him, Dog actually won't be able to play a Mountain Giant on turn 4, so it's kind of a blessing in disguise on Dog's part. But yeah, really risky play by Brarose there. Gets punished for it, has to heal power on turn 2. And now he's going to be a mana behind for the rest of the game.
Yeah, the thing is, because you can innovate something like a keeper against aggro, or get a swipe out early, or get a taunt when you
Oh,
really need it. But the Hellfire is strong. I think
yeah.
I like this idea. I wonder if he drops the Ancient Watcher. I think that might be okay. But there's no taunt coming up on the
Yeah,
next few turns here.
yeah, the most obvious play, or the best minion that Brarose can play here, borrowing some sort of innervate, is the Palacer. So Dog smartly holding back on that Ancient Watcher, realizing he doesn't want to take the 3 damage on it the following turn. Fairy Dragon comes out, I would say a bit above average because it can't be targeted by Dark Bomb. But yeah, really heads up play up there by Dog, and Brarose just kind of chugging along. I imagine he's going to play this Loatheb right on curve to provide some more pressure.
Yeah, I really like that. Lothar is such a strong minion, honestly. People have been talking about it being overpowered when it came out in Naxxramas for the first time. We haven't been seeing Hugin and Stalag as much, but it's been happening. It's been coming back a little bit. Wonder when that's going to be, in all the top decks in the meta, Hugin and Stalag, because they are a bit undervalued. I feel now.
Yeah, I think so too. Actually, kind of off topic here, but I definitely agree with you. Fugan and Stalag is, especially if you have a Doctor Boom in your deck as well. Speaking of the Reno Warlock, the most likely deck to put those guys in, just so hard to deal with, and it's so. I mean, people just can't find the room for 2 big game hunters in this sort of meta. So yeah, it would be really strong. In any case, we have Dog in kind of a predicament. If he plays the Twilight Drake, it's more likely for Brarose to have the Keeper, but if you play the Mountain Giant, it's so much more of a blowout if you have the Big M Hunter. However, I mean, Brarose has the hero power anyway, so it's kind of a similar outcome. So in his mind, maybe Dog thinks it might be better to go for the stronger minion here.
Yeah, to explain this a bit, so there's going to be one Big M Hunter and two keepers, so it's twice as likely that the keeper is going to be in the hand. Also, you could keep the keeper blind against Sue, or against any warlock, but you couldn't keep the Big M Hunter against Sue. Now, what Dog is thinking about, and something that's very important, and what, in my opinion, separates the good handlock players and the great handlock players and the good handlock players is he figures, okay, if there's going to be an invade combo, I'm dead anyway, so there's no reason talking about that. So I'm just going to play like he doesn't have the combo, because there's no reason to play around him having combo. So that's exactly what Dog is doing. He's just playing as greedy as possible for the scenario that he has the combo, that it doesn't have the combo. He's just playing like combo doesn't exist, because it can't exist, because if it exists, you just lose anyway.
Right. In any case, Brarose hits only with the Fairy Dragon here. Doesn't want to see something crazy like a double Molten Shadow Flame taunt, which could be possible if he hit face with everything there. Gonna limit the options of Dog, and he does have lethal next turn, so gonna just play it safe here and go with that option. Dog just going to Dark Bomb here. Brarose, one man off being able to play either of those Savage Roars as he picks up the second one. But yeah, probably going to be seeing, well, it could be the Ancient of War or Dr. Boom here. And we will see if he decides to go attack into the face.
I think there's even some merit to it, but he's already seen one Hellfire. If there's a second Hellfire, he can play the Molten Giant for free.
Right. I think you might be a bit afraid of something like Molten Shadow Flame, which we mentioned earlier. Obviously, if people have been cutting Shadow Flames to deal with aggro a bit better, and there's not the, I mean, other than the Moltens and the Ancients or the Ancient Watchers, excuse me, there's not the best targets to Shadow Flame, especially with this deck not running anything like Power Overwhelming for quite a bit of time now. But Dog definitely on the back foot. He does have Molten and Taunt. But I don't... Is there any way he can stay alive considering Brarose has double Savage Roar in hand?
Not really, yeah. You could possibly counter one of them. The thing is, though, I want to talk about his decision, Brarose, to attack face. Now, he has lethal no matter what, even if it's a big hunter. So the 3 damage, 11 or 14, it doesn't matter. You have way too much anyway. If you had something like a swipe, which he didn't have last turn. If he had the swipe, I could see the potential of, okay, the bombs maybe going to do about 4 damage to the face, and if you're at 11, I could potentially finish off with a swipe. But this here should be lethal, I believe.
It's way over lethal, right? I mean, he has both bombs and the Fairy Dragon and his face to get through these Ancient Watchers, and he has 11 damage on the Dr. Boom, which is enough by itself. So this is super lethal, depending on how the bombs go, obviously, and barring some crazy lag issues, it's going to be Brarose's game. He finally picks one up in a somewhat favored matchup, around 55-45, possibly even 60-40 for the Druid in that situation. Though we have seen Demon Warlock win that in the past in pro matches, but good play by Brarose there, putting enough pressure on to be able to finish out the game, and in the same time limiting Dog's options. We are going to be moving on to either Dog's Warlock versus Brarose's Death Rattle Rogue, or against Brarose's Warlock, which I'm having a hard time remembering what that was. Do you remember?
I believe he was playing, I believe it was Sue, wasn't it?
Right. It was the Zoo with the without the Dr. Boom, but with the Sea Giant, right? So, going to be, I believe, both favored matchups for Dog, if I'm reading this correctly. Obviously, this is a very new school deck in this Rogue, and a very old school deck for Dog using this Warlock. Brarose probably going to be looking to get as annoying a board as possible onto the field, and then from there using those Power Overwhelmings to kind of finish the game all in one swoop. But going to be difficult to deal with the huge minions from Dog, as we see already in his hand.
Yeah, but talk a bit about the last game. I felt like Dog actually played that brilliantly. I want to talk specifically about the turn where he tapped and went for the Mountain Giant. I think that was just brilliant because he realizes, okay, I can't play around combo, so I'm just going to play as greedy as possible for him not having combo. That's something not many people would have the balls to do, would be to
Right.
tap when you have such a threatening board. And he did make the right call, but just ended up being too much pressure from Brarose. And I think Brarose played it spot on as well. I think the only thing to debate would be the coin Darnassus on turn two. It's not an obvious thing. I think some people would just wait for the turn two because the Darnassus, it's something you would absolutely do against Sue, but you absolutely wouldn't do against Handlock. So it's a tough call. But to talk a bit about the last two matchups now, both of these decks are Sue style decks, and Handlock excels against Sue style decks, especially this one. But it's a tough scenario to play through though. So we'll have to see how he can navigate.
Right. Gonna be interesting. I mean, Dog has a pretty good hand here. He's able to coin out this Twilight Drake. Also has the Void Caller in hand to go with that next turn. Braro's gonna have to have a really interesting decision here, whether or not he wants to put on the aggression and start just smacking Dog in the face, or whether he wants to start popping these eggs and put some more power on the board himself. Pretty tough decision, and then honestly, I think it requires a lot of kind of experience with this deck in order to determine the right answer, because I personally have never played Unearthed Raptor Rogue versus Handlock. Have you?
I haven't no, but looking at this board, I prefer Fan Cold Blood here. That's what looks best to me at least.
Yeah, he could pop both of his creatures here by doing so, and get two 4/4s on the board as well.
Whoa,
But yeah,
whoa,
looks
whoa.
like he was doing what I originally proposed, which is just going super aggressive, realizing that he doesn't have the favorable matchup. So going to go super aggressive here. I kind of like it actually, because now Dog is forced to start dealing with these minions, and once he deals with them, a bigger minion comes out.
Yeah, Brarose definitely realizes that this is not going to be his best matchup, and realizes how he's going to win is through bursts. So he is, yeah, just playing like a lot of things don't exist. And I mean, Owl in SDG, for example,
Right.
Dark Bomb, and it's almost GG. That's just how it is. But Dog doesn't have the things that he needs to really stop this. And I mean, this is the potential that Barrows has, and I think he just knows this deck better than we do.
Yeah,
So interesting.
absolutely. Yeah, exactly. Like we mentioned, just realizing such a bad matchup for him and just going aggressive as soon as possible. And looks like he's getting rewarded for that play. Dog obviously having a lot of threats in hand, but no answers at the moment. And we'll see what Brarose comes up with here. Obviously, that Skulker not going to be able to do too much. Only going to be able to deal 2 damage against a minion that you don't really want to be popping anyway. And looks like now he's going to start clearing though, however. And that will give Brarose the lead on board. Let's see. Okay, he's not going to pop the Void Caller, and I bet Dog is kind of happy about that. Obviously, he doesn't want to be taking damage to the face, but doesn't want his Void Caller to get popped, quote unquote, for free.
Hmm.
Very,
Now,
yeah, very awkward turn for Dog once more. I mean, you can play the Defender of Argus, but you're not developing too much power here. Looks like he's just going to go for the Giant, having, again, no fear, because he can't really have fear in this situation. And is that potentially game? There's 8 damage on board. Um,
14, Icon 14, I think.
yeah, he doesn't have anything to activate the Eviscerate. Funnily enough, if that SI7 agent were a backstab, he'd have lethal. Even though backstab doesn't do any damage, but it would be something to activate these Eviscerates here. And as Brarose, do you just go for it?
I think you have to go for it. Yeah, you have lethal on the follow up, but I mean, Dog can just not Loatheb, and there's nothing you can do really. Had he gone for the double Eviscerate, the Loatheb wouldn't have really worked.
Well,
But this puts a lot more pressure,
that
I
is
guess.
true, but if Dog does go for the Loatheb, then he has to start clearing out this board. And once he starts clearing out this board, then, or if he plays Loatheb, he can't put a taunt in place. And once he starts clearing out the board, then Brarose has 4 damage to Dog's face on board. So we might see Dog just go for a taunt here, and that would really, I mean, that would seal the game for him. or seal the game against him in Braro's favor. And that's, yeah, he's going to go for the taunts, realizing that it's unlikely that his opponent has exactly double eviscerate since he didn't do it last turn. And that's going to be game for Brarose, surprisingly.
Oof. Well played to him, honestly. I think, yeah, it's obviously hard to know what your opponent is playing, but from Dog's point of view, I mean, I think Lothar would have been better. It's a tough call, though. I mean, you like if you play Lothar, you're not gonna die. There's just no way you're gonna die.
Yeah,
But
but
this you might die in this case, I
yeah,
guess. But it's more
well,
aggressive.
I think he's just playing it very risky on purpose and realizing that statistically it's less likely for your opponent to have double eviscerate or a cold blood plus eviscerate plus something to activate those. And actually, cold blood wouldn't even do it, right? Because there's taunts in the way, so it had to be exactly double eviscerate, and unlikely for that to happen. If he plays the Lothar, he can't get a taunt in front, and then from there, there's 4 damage on board for Brarose going directly to Dog's face, and Dog needs a heal, and I don't believe he had a heal in hand,
He
correct?
did have a heal bar actually.
Oh, he did.
But
Okay.
to talk about, okay, there's a different. Now, I play a lot of Handlock. It's my main deck
Hmm.
actually. Uh, I guess not in the current meta, not my main deck in the current meta, but overall throughout the expansions. Now, it is true that it's unlikely that there's going to be a double eviscerate, but it's the only way you're going to lose.
Right.
So I think that's why you have to play around it, and it's a bit rough. I mean, you do get the Lothar going. You're taking 4 damage, you're going down to 4 health, and then you can heal bot on the following turn. So you're guaranteed to get another turn, and you're guaranteed to get the heal bot going. You have a Mountain Giant, you have a Molten Giant, and you have Lothar on the turn. Your opponent is running out of things to play, and you can go heal bot taunt next turn.
Hmm.
No matter what, you'll be at 12 health and have a taunt up. I felt like that was a scenario you couldn't really lose from, so you didn't need to take a risk.
Right, right. Definitely makes sense. And Dog going for the risky play there didn't work out for him in the end. Burrows has an interesting choice here. Could go for a lot of damage with that Dragonhawk Rider. Could go for more sustain with that Blood Imp, or could go for just a beefier minion in and of itself with that Hungry Crab. But goes for the Dragonhawk Rider to put more pressure on. And this game seems like it's trolling Dog at the moment. The fact that he has 2 owls in hand out right now after he really needed those last game.
It's furious here, yeah. But obviously, it's easy to say what the best play is if you see both hands. But I'm trying to put myself in a situation where you don't know and what possible cards you would want to play around here. Doomguard, this is a bit rough.
Yeah, gonna be just a double abusive sergeant, which is not what you want to see. That could have represented a. Ooh, looks like he made a mistake. Interesting. Brarose has just kind of stopped in his tracks. Look, I mean, he started reaching for the mistake button after he played that abusive sergeant, and
Oh, he was going for the Hellfire. I see. Interesting. No, he didn't have the mana for the Hellfire. Yeah. So what was it? What was the mistake?
I am not too sure.
But Brarose looks really frustrated here. Really, really frustrated.
I mean, there's nothing for him to do. I mean, obviously, it feels pretty painful to go for double abusive sergeant, but he really had nothing to do anyway, and it looks like we're having some connection issues once more. Finally gets to end his turn, but I'm as perplexed as you are as for why he was confused or he was worried about that.
Now, I want to talk about disconnect here and when the server has problems. And there was actually a team tournament called Gentleman's Cup that happened in Nax Ramas where there were a lot of problems. And they actually had the rule that if there is no lethal, if it's lethal, the person gets the win. If there's an unstoppable lethal, whereas there's no card in your entire deck that you could draw to prevent lethal, the opponent gets a win. But if that isn't the case, no matter how far ahead you are, you don't judge win one way or the other,
Right.
generally. And I think that's actually the way to go. We've had other scenarios at launch where admins are making decisions whether which player wins or loses, and I think it's the right call just not to be making those calls as admins.
So Brarose has an interesting decision here. He could go for just smacking his opponent in the face for 11, which just would be kind of interesting as he picks up the second Doomguard, not really what he wants to be seeing. But instead, looks like he's going to be taking this a bit slower and developing this Nerubian egg, setting up for potentially a lot of damage next turn. And
I think it's better not to attack her. She doesn't have lethal anyway.
yeah.
But okay.
He doesn't have lethal, but I mean, it's still kind of an awkward turn for Dog, as we do see he cannot play the Molten Defender. He can play Molten Sun
All maybe?
Fury. He has 10 cards in hand, though, so he can't tap Molten Sun Fury, unfortunately. But do you just go for that anyway? You just throw that in that Molten and the Sun Fury Protector?
I kind of like Owl Molten myself.
Mm-hmm.
But it depends on what he's playing around. And I guess, if you think about it, why would Brarose attack from 15 to 13 unless he had lethal?
Right. So maybe
So
so Dog could be, playing defensive here. And that could be on Brarose's mind too. It could be that he's trying to make Dog play defensively, trying to prevent him from playing out his big threats and not playing greedy, and instead making Dog go for a defensive play like the one I mentioned with the taunt. So could be a heads up play here from Brarose going for that aggression even without the lethal.
so basically a Serbian Jewish double bluff from Brarose,
Yeah. So
pretending to play wrong on purpose to make Dog play wrong. Like
right.
that's pretty next level. I've gotta hand it to him. But this, yeah, he has 11 now from hand, and yeah,
The funny thing is, if Dog went for Owl tap Molten Giant, he would have lost here. But yeah, it looks like Brarose is 2 damage off lethal, and looks like he's just gonna go for it.
he discards the Hellfire. Oh no, it's the
Wow.
one card he couldn't lose here.
Well, we do see
Poor
that there's a heal
Brarose.
bot in hand, which I assume Dog's gonna go for. And now that he's seen that Hellfire, he might be afraid of maybe his second Hellfire. What do you think if you're in Dog's position right now? Do you think there's a second Hellfire, or is that just too
I
crazy?
think I'd be pretty happy, honestly. Like you can clear both minis, you can play a heal bot, and you'll be pretty much set here. Even Dark Bomb the abusive potentially. So yeah, there's no way he just grabs the heal bot immediately. There's no thinking needed here. Taunts up.
Yeah, I think he's a
Yep.
bit afraid of maybe another Doom Guard and some sort of crazy lethal. He just died to double eviscerate, right? So I think he's gonna play safe here. Goes for the taunt rather than the dark bomb. He's fine with just throwing away his owl here. And now Dog is finally in the driver's seat after having his hand like kind of take a beating the last couple games.
But this is Sue here, so it's a different scenario. I mean, we saw some crazy Warlock deck yesterday with Hobgoblin, Mal'Ganis, Jiraxis, Sue.
Right. Right, so Brarose
It's
wants to. Sorry to cut you off there.
yeah.
Brarose wanted to get to a power whelming or something like that here, but doesn't get it. His choices are Tournament Attendee, Blood Imp, and the Light Warden. None of which are going to help too much. Gets a pretty good knife here for his sake, but looks like it's probably going to be that Haunted Creeper. And this is just got to be frustrating for Brarose dealing with this lag.
It
Ooh,
seems to be, yeah. But
another knife.
from my point of view, it seems like when he has Discover, he clicks on twos without selecting a minion, and then the screen resets. That's what it looks to be from our point of view, at least. Hard to tell though.
Looks like Dog not too afraid of dying and reaching for that Mountain Giant. The only thing he can do after that is play either an Owl or a Dark Bomb. He can't play, for instance, that Defender of Argus in hand, but I guess he feels like if he lives one more turn, he has the Jiraxis to kind of heal up, or even the Mal'Ganis to make himself invulnerable. And so, oh, is that just lethal? Oh, looks like he just spotted lethal. Hmm, interesting.
Sure did here, yeah.
Alright.
So Dog's gonna
Well,
take a
our
3-2 lead here,
our
yeah.
mistake, guys. Looks like it's going to be exactly lethal. Dog is able to spot it, and well, good job on him. Initially reaching for that mountain giant, so can't blame the casters this time. He was about to miss it as well, and but good on him changing his play in order to find that out. And that's going to be 3 games to 2 for Dog. Congratulations to him. He is one step closer to being able to qualify for that final elimination tournament.